You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the June 27th, 2023 meeting of the Michigan City Plan Commission. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, June 27th, 2023 at 6 p.m. and this is the regular meeting of the Michigan City Plan Commission. First item is to do the roll call.
Ross Balling.
I'm here.
Brian Dabney.
Present.
Dan Granquist.
Here.
Fred Klender.
Here.
Philip Latchford.
Here.
Gigi Millay.
Here.
Rose.
Here.
Lawrence Zimmer.
Here.
And Attorney Steve Hale.
Here.
That is everyone.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Next item is to approve the agenda for this evening. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved. Support.
Do I repeat again? Ross Balling.
Yes.
Brian Dabney.
Yes.
Dan Granquist.
Yes.
Fred Klender.
Yes.
Philip Latchford.
Yes.
Gigi Millay.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Lawrence Zimmer.
Yes.
And then Steve. That's everyone.
Great. Thank you, Kyle. Next item is to approve the minutes from our last meeting, which was on May 23rd. Is there a motion?
Mr. Zimmer,
Yes, sir.
call for motion to intervene.
Yes.
Mr. Balling, are you able to appear on camera? Mr. Balling?
Working on it. It's me.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, so approval of the minutes from last month.
Move to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
Ross Balling.
Yes.
Brian Dabney.
Yes.
Dan Granquist.
Yes.
Fred Klender.
Yes.
Philip Latchford.
Yes.
Gigi Millay.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Lawrence Zimmer.
Yes. Well, I'm sorry. I abstained because I wasn't here.
Oh, okay. That's all.
Thank you. So the next item is our one and only petition this evening, P-100-23. Who is here to speak to that petition? Please come up to the podium and state your name and address.
Hi, we are Dale and Sheila Moyer, residents at 1520 East 8th Street, Michigan City.
So just go ahead and describe what it is you'd like to do. Why are you before us this evening?
Thank you and good evening. Thank you for having us. We are the owners of the building at 124 West 11th Street, and we desire to come before this body to have it rezoned from R3B to CBD1. Back to its original status.
Mr. Moyer, this is Skylar York, Director of Planning. I'm sorry, I'm cheering by phone. I'm down here with my family. Could you tell a little bit about the building and go into a little history about it that you know, recent history?
Sure, thank you. The building itself, we believe, was probably built in the late 1800s. It was a home in the very beginning. It was subdivided into apartments, 4 apartments at some point, probably in the World War I, World War II era. And then in the 1950s, a storefront was built onto the front of it, which sits there right there on 11th Street, which is contiguous to the property. For a number of years, it was a place, a destination one would go to buy their bus ticket in and out of town. It was called Always Travel. One may remember it had sort of the tattered awnings when we purchased it early last year. We had 1 resident in the building. We have since expanded to, not expanded the building, but we have expanded in terms of having other residents now live in the building. So it's now more fully occupied. 3 out of the 4 apartment units in there are now occupied. We desire to get approval from this board to have that commercial portion rezoned so that we could then hopefully bring in a business into Michigan City to occupy that space.
We purchased it
We purchased it,
March.
closed in March of 2022.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess what we'll do then is just move right into the plan department's report. Then we'll hear the attorney's report. Then we'll take questions from commission members. So either Skylar or Kyle, who's ever going to do it?
Yeah,
Skylar, okay.
I'll read it. I'm here. So sorry this is so weird this time. I've had some family things I had to come down to take care of. And I will make a comment before I get started that number 5 in my staff recommendations, my findings will be changed as I read it. It should be mixed use rather than suburban residential. Sorry about that, Ms. Frank. This is can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to begin. This is a staff report. This is June 27th. This is case P-100-23, 124 West 11th Street, rezoning. The request is a rezoning of property from present R3B multifamily residential to CBD1 Central Business District. Staff analysis. The property in question is an existing structure that started out as a larger house and over time was expanded to create a storefront addition facing onto 11th Street. The structure in question has been used as mixed use throughout. Used as mixed use, although it is not your traditional mixed use structure. And I think Mr. Moyer just kind of gave a kind of a really good synopsis that it was a house. Later on in the 50s, it had an addition added to it. We see this numerous times up and down Franklin Street and throughout Michigan City. The storefront has been vacant and underutilized while the residential has remained. The current owner is looking to activate the existing storefront in a manner that will contribute to the downtown and to the neighborhood. The owner has also made significant investment to the structure in anticipation of opening a small commercial space at this location. According to Indiana Code 603, in considering a request for a rezoning, the Plan Commission shall pay reasonable regard to the following. 1, the comprehensive plan, MC 2040 comprehensive plan, county land development plan. 2, current conditions and the character of current structures and uses in each district. The most desirable use for the land, for which the land in each district is adapted. 4, the conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction. And 5, reasonable development and growth. Staff makes the following findings. The petition concerns a request for rezone a 5 a request to rezone a 5,000 square foot lot with an existing mixed-use structure. That the real estate consists of an existing 5,000 square foot lot and existing mixed-use structure. That the real estate is currently zoned as R3B multifamily residential, and that the petitioner requests that the real estate be rezoned to CBD 1 Central Business District, and that the requested change in zoning will be consistent with the Michigan City Comprehensive Plan, which labels this property as future mixed use, or more appropriately, more of a continuation of a downtown zoning. That the requested zoning change will be compatible with the conditions and character of current structures and uses in the neighborhood and surrounding area. Number 7, that the requested change in zoning will provide for the most reasonable use for which the real estate is adapted, and the proposed land use will not have an adverse effect on surrounding property. And number 8, that the requested change in zoning will not be injurious, detrimental to the surrounding property values, and will further the conservation of property values throughout the neighborhood. And that the requested change in zoning will promote orderly and responsible community growth and development and will not adversely affect the community. And number 10, that the real estate, as well as its location in an area with a mix of commercial, retail, and residential uses and zoning, are suitable for the proposed use and zoning change. Number 11, that the requested change is not spot zoning, which will confer a special benefit on a relatively small tract of land without commensurate benefit to the community. CBD1 zoning is found in the same block at this location. Number 12, that the requested change in zoning will not disrupt or destroy any neighborhood plan. And number 13, that the requested change in zoning will better promote and facilitate the development of the real estate and the preservation of property values, environment, and uses in the surrounding neighborhood. And number 14, furthermore, that this location has previously been a commercial retail use, and over the years has become vacant and abandoned due to disinvestment in the surrounding area. The recent investment in the South Shore Station and the double track system less than a block away has generated new investment in commercial and retail uses in the vicinity. Staff recommendation. Staff recommends the approval. Staff has reviewed the proposed request and the rezoning and recommends forwarding this petition P-100-23 requesting zoning of 124 West 11th Street from R3B to CBD1 to the Common Council with a favorable recommendation. And I'll entertain any questions too. I know that I've kind of stumbled a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. York. Mr. Hale?
Yes, before I start my report, I'd ask Kyle if he would report on any responses from various city agencies. I know that a couple of them have responded.
Okay.
So the first one was from the sanitation department, and they responded that they had no exceptions to the request. And the other respondent was the fire department, and they said they had no issues with this request as well. And that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Getting on then to my report for petition number P-100-23. The petitioners and applicants are Dale and Sheila Moyer. who are in front of you. Mr. Moyer made the presentation. The owner is DSM 124 LLC, and the request is rezoning from current R3B to CBD1 for the property that's been described as 124 West 11th Street in Michigan City. Initially, I would advise you that I've had an opportunity earlier and again tonight to review all the notice documentation that has been provided by the petitioners applicants. I find that that notice documentation is adequate. It meets our requirements, and you're free to consider this matter this evening. We're used to zoning here. You will recall that Indiana Code allows for the individual owners of property to initiate a change in zoning, that is amending the zoning map. And the petitioners here have asked you then to rezone this property from a residential to a downtown core district zoning designation. There is a procedure that's been set out that we have been following. You are required to hold a public hearing, which I assume will take place in a few moments. And then you don't have the authority to actually grant a change in zoning. That is a matter for the Common Council of the city. However, you are required by law, both state law and our zoning ordinance, to pass this along to the Common Council. And as you remember, you may do so with a favorable recommendation or with an unfavorable recommendation, or you can send it on to the council with no recommendation. I'm not going to reread you the considerations that you shall apply in making your decision this evening. Kyle read them out to you. You have them in written form in both his report and my report. I would just advise you that under our zoning ordinance, you are to pass this along to the Common Council with a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation. I also have put in my report a list of all the materials which are significant and numerous that were provided by the petitioners, showing the property and an overview of the property and a survey and some drawings with dimensions, elevations, floor plan, mechanicals, these things as to what the petitioner proposes. And that, along with Mr. York's report, my report, and a presentation by Mr. Moyer, constitute the record in this matter. You will note that I also sent you earlier, and you have before you in written form, a proposed ordinance. I am the author of that ordinance. It is my opinion that this body is better off if I undertake such an ordinance rather than leaving it to the petitioner. And so I put before you a proposed ordinance. You aren't required to follow that at all. And you aren't even required to send it along with your recommendation or no recommendation. However, I would ask that you take a vote on that after you vote on the main issue.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. Questions, comments?
I have a couple of questions for Mr. Hale.
Gigi.
Oh, it's not. This is for you, Mr. Hale. You said that you looked at all the notices. I was looking because it seemed like the property that would be most affected would be the one next door, and I didn't see that one on the list. They may have a post office box or something.
You recall who you got on the rear property line?
Oh, I have no idea. I was just looking for whatever the property would be that would be. Right
I have the name. It is on the list. It's Christian Nault. Is the name of the.
What is it?
The last name of the individual is Nault, N-A-U-L-T.
I remember without even looking at that name was on the list.
Okay, and I'm just curious. Is it sufficient that there are records indicating people were notified, or do they need to respond? Also.
This is a question that has come up many times, and I answer it in this fashion. We require that a petitioner provide notice to the property owners. And in providing a certified return receipt mailing, a petitioner is given back a white slip that has the address and the name of the person. And it is often, it's supposed to always be stamped by the post office. And the green card is attached to the envelope. And so the post office then delivers that envelope to the party at the address that's listed. So we can check, and we do check, that all those white mailing slips are appropriate, that they've sent them out to everyone at an appropriate time, and that everyone within the 300 feet of the property has been issued at least a mailing from the post office. I cannot find in any way that I can make anyone pick up their mail or respond or sign a green card. And it is common that we have people that refuse, that don't pick it up, or there's some other issue with delivery by our U.S. Postal Service. And so I have adopted the rule that I have to have the white slip to prove that the petitioner followed the requirement and sent notice. But because I can't be assured, unless I walk to everyone's house and knock on their door, that they've actually received it, because there could be, and there have been, in our experience in this body, times when the post office made errors, when something else happened, when people don't sign the green card. So you won't see a green card for every property. I do have green cards for all but a very small, perhaps 5 of the owners. And I have envelopes that have been returned by the post office by, I think, 3 of them. And so there's usually very little that clicks through, if you will, that we can't satisfy, at least myself, that people have had an opportunity to respond.
Well, I suppose this is a case where the Moyers may have actually spoken to their neighbor.
We have spoken with them in the past, yes.
Yeah, they're probably happy that the property's being improved, quite honestly, but I was just curious because that was so important. The other question for you is that if our approval sends this to the Common Council, we are in essence saying that we believe it complies with zoning.
I wouldn't. You are acknowledging that you approve the request or the petitioner's request, but I wouldn't describe it that you, as you stated, that it fits with zoning. They've asked that it be rezoned, and there are various standards that you're to look at that are listed on both reports. And I think your job is to determine if those have been met, and then you're saying that you approve the rezone, and ask that the Common Council also approve it. They're the one that actually passes the ordinance, and that's why we're passing that along too today.
Well, I confess that I didn't review the zoning regulations for this specific thing, but and Skylar York just mentioned that as far as the change of zoning for this property, that planning did not think it was a considered spot zoning, and so I guess I'd have to just review the definition of that. But a lot of codes just don't allow a property to be changed if it's not adjacent to the zone that it wants to be. And so this is separated by another residential use, and that's kind of my reason for asking this question. I don't see any problem with it because of what you say and the past nature of the building, and if your neighbors don't object, I don't see any problem. But I just wondered specifically, since that is something that we would have to say that we agree to.
Mr. President, could I answer, maybe give Gigi a little background on that one?
Jump right in.
So Gigi, the reason why I'm suggesting this is that I did talk to the Moyers, and I suggested that I would be willing to rezone the one next door as well. But unfortunately, they were moving a little bit faster than the next door neighbor, because the next door is basically the same situation. It's a house with a storefront. I believe back in the day that this should have been CBD1 down to the edge of Washington Street, because you have commercial properties there. You basically took the use away from them by not zoning them CBD1 as the corner of 11th and Franklin is zoned CBD1. So the Moyers came to us and were seeking a variance, but unfortunately, a variance, well, theoretically, are granted on one use. So so you'd have to say, I want a coffee shop here. Okay, well, we'll give a variance for a coffee shop. That's all it'll ever be. It's hard to go. Then you'd have to seek a variance for everything that you want to do there differently. So it become very complicated for them. So this was honestly the best way to handle the situation, which is much more complicated than a BZA case, as you are aware. But this was honestly a better way to do it, and probably a cleaner way to do it, to grant them the use that they need so that they can seek out the best fit for that space. And it's not a big space. It's a very small space. It's really going to take a person or a niche. It's really going to be some type of business that really fits in there. But they seem pretty dedicated to finding that. So that's a little history of like how we arrived where we arrived at.
All right, thank you. I just have one last question for the Moyers, because we do have the plans here, and since you are doing alterations, has your architect suggested that you might need to make that space accessible for people with disabilities?
That has not been addressed.
It's just, there's no details here, but the bathroom doesn't comply. And because you're doing new construction, you may have to, you might want to check that.
We haven't been able to get that far.
Yeah, so our building, the work that we've done has all been on the exterior, the windows, the fascia and so forth, signage, a sort of platform for signage and new external door. So we paused until coming before this body, and then we'll pursue the proper.
So you still have to get the permit for the interior work.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, the city will probably tell you the same thing. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point, Chi-Chi. Thank you.
Well, it drives me crazy. I've done a lot of work in that area, and it's just amazing to realize how many people out there have needs that should be addressed, and if they're not, that they just can't be in certain spaces. So
Agreed.
it's just a good thing to do for all of us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I also want to just point out, and I'm sure you'll find, if you don't know already, you'll find out, but this building is in the historic district. It is not?
It ends on the other side. South side.
On the other side.
It ends on the north side of Blood. Okay. All right. Never mind.
Yep.
But then my other question is about parking. Is there anything that we need to discuss or address about that with the property and 4 residences and a commercial space? What's the parking situation that we need to consider, if any?
We won't know that until they tell us what their uses are, because we have the residential parking, which I believe they have that handled, but we won't know. They'll have to tell us what the use is, the commercial use or the residential use. We'll have to calculate that at that time. Because the parking is tied to the use.
So depending on who they rent it to?
Correct. What it is. Actually, what it is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what it is. What it actually becomes. Yeah. And keep in mind, there are parking and there will be future parking there, and there will be a garage there eventually. So they may cater to more commuters rather than, it just depends on what it is. Is it takeout? Is it grab and go? We don't know that use. And I think that's why they stopped and paused in coming to you, because they don't know where they're going to, what kind of use they're going to go for yet.
But that's not a direct function of the rezoning request here.
Correct. Yes, Mr. Granquist, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
That comes later when Kyle reviews it for use.
Are you finished, Skylar?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes, real quick, we have an address of 124, and that's what the house address is. With the business being there attached to the house, do we have the ability to just rezone a portion of 124? I take it, following the definition? Or are we rezoning the house and the business?
Yes. The whole thing would be, it's not your traditional mixed use, but it would basically go back into a mixed use building is what it would become. It's not your traditional in that it's not it's not a stack, meaning that you got commercial on the ground floor and then all the residential is above it. It's sort of like that. It kind of grew from a house into a mixed use rather than a commercial into a mixed use. It's not your traditional, but I believe this zoning class is what fits it best. Does that make sense?
Mixed use is what covers, when you use the term mixed use, that's what covers what we're doing here then.
Yes, correct, Mr. Clinter. It covers basically a commercial and a residential together. Although it's not your traditional like downtown building, many of our buildings along Franklin Street are like this, where the house is grown into a commercial product or commercial use. And this is probably the best fit for this building in its current state to be used in the manner that it was.
All righty, very good. Thank you, Skylar.
We also have talked about, I talked with the Moyers when we met about maybe keeping the 120, and this is totally up to them, keeping up the 124 on 11th Street and then taking the residential uses, because they function more on Washington Street and basically giving them a Washington address to try to distinguish between the two for deliveries, etc., things of that nature, Amazon, etc.
Well, a lot of times addresses are a function of the postal service, the USPS.
Correct. That's correct. And we help them do that. Correct. But we won't do that till they request it to us.
Anybody else on the commission? Right. I'll open it up to public comment. Any public, please come forward, state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Joe Condon. This is Laura Condon. We live at 1015 Washington Street. And I know my wife has some she wants to say.
Sure. I just have a couple concerns. I'm very welcoming to new businesses into our community, no doubt about it. But we do have the Hutchinson Mansion, which is owned by Marquette, and they have the residential hall. They house about 35 students each season. And then we, as my husband said, we're at 1015 Washington, so we sit right on the corner on the hill. And my concern only is that whatever is put in there is appropriate for our neighborhood, not a liquor store, not something that would attract unwanted. And we also have
We're very close.
Yeah, and so we did get the letters and none of us responded. We have an 81-year-old neighbor, Mary Kellstrom on the end, Kathleen, who heads up the school residential hall. None of us, we got it. That's why we're here. So I'm just kind of the voice to say that, yes, we're excited for everything, but please take into consideration that we already have liquor store down the road from us, or the kids are there. vape shops, things like that. It just is not what we want.
Could we respond and?
Sure, that's all I really have to say.
Yeah. We are completely aligned with you. And again, not to cast aspersions, but where you have no desire for vape shop, for tattoo parlor, for liquor store, anything like that. We will, well, obviously, if given approval, we will operate within the parameters of this. The list seems to be fairly open in terms of the types of businesses, but we're thinking probably something that's just helpful for the community, retail, potentially coffee shop or something like that.
Currently, we have three now, potentially 4 tenants live right there. And we will completely respect that their front steps are right around the corner from the door. And they're very important to us as well. They've been there longer, so they're all aware of what we're trying to do. They all support it. We've told them, given them our word that it's not going to be anything that's going to go.
Great.
Yes, thank you.
But thank you for coming and showing your support.
Yeah. Thanks for your
Nice to
time.
meet our neighbors.
Sure, thanks for your
Yeah.
comments. Any other public comment?
Those are great comments.
No other public comment? Any other public comment? Public comment is closed.
Background on Ross.
Okay. So with that, then, if there's no other comments from commissioners, I guess we would look for a motion regarding this petition.
I move to approve the petition as presented and as recommended by the staff analysis and the staff recommendation.
I'll second that.
As part of that, excuse me, I'm sorry. Is part of your motion and your second that you would pass that on to the common council with a favorable?
And a favorable recommendation.
The second as well.
Yes.
Yes, Kyle, you can take the roll.
Thank you. Ross Balling,
Yes.
Brian Dabney,
Yes.
Dan Granquist,
Yes.
Fred Klinder,
Yes.
Philip Ladford,
Yes.
Gigi Malay,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Lawrence Zimmer.
Yes.
Okay, that's everyone.
As I mentioned, Mr. President, if you would now take up the issue of passing along with your favorable recommendation, that proposed ordinance with your approval.
So we just need a motion to pass this on to the city council. Okay. Is there a motion to do that?
I move that we pass along the ordinance amending the zoning map of the city to rezone the property owned by DSM 124 LLC from R3B to CBD1.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ross Balling,
Yes.
Brian Dabney,
Yes.
Dan Granquist,
Yes.
Fred Klinder,
Yes.
Philip Latchford,
Yes.
Gigi Malay,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Lawrence Zimmer.
Yes.
That's everyone.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck as you move forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you for.
We didn't want to.
Mr. President,
Thank you for your help in our city.
Thank you.
Mr. President, this is Skylar. Could I say something to the Moyers, please?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you guys for investing in this building. It's been sitting there a very long time. It needed some help. Thank you for taking it upon yourselves to purchase it and put the money and time into it. I look forward to seeing what it can be. I know every time I drive down there, I look at it and wonder about it. And I just want to say thanks, and that's it, really. Just thanks for investing. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for your kind words, Skylar.
Mr. Zimmer, I'm done.
All right. Thanks, Skylar. Is there any new or old business this evening? Guess not. Is there any?
No, we do not have any old business. I don't believe.
Okay, thanks. Any other public comment regarding this petition or anything else related to city planning?
I hope that the train station and all the good changes there and the news, that all that new stuff that connect with the train station continues to have such a good impact for the city. And I hope that people doing the train station improve the building and make it even better and better as time goes on.
I agree at that.
It's very important, and this is the obvious first step.
Yep. Any other questions or comments from anybody? Public, commissioners?
Yeah, quick comment. The ordinance that's moving on to the city council, I'll sponsor. So as that's moved along.
Great. Thanks,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Dick.
Dabney.
Right. Well, given that, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Support.
With that, we are adjourned then. Thank you, everyone.